Alright, so what's up, good people? So, yeah, this is part 2 of the Peace Studio movie, and, well, 2024, I should say, because they're two different variants, but yeah. This one was more informational, to be honest. Like, if you're an artist out there, this is a really good video for you, because you can learn about different resources, especially if you're in Miami. But in general, I feel like you could kind of apply this to anywhere you want. But for sure, this was some good informational stuff. And yeah, honestly, I hope y'all vibe with it. There wasn't that many performances and stuff this time around, but you know, yeah, it was still a vibe. It was still cool. I don't think I recorded everything, but yeah. But yeah, hope y'all enjoy it.
This is going to be a very, very intensive panel in terms of the amount of information that we're going to be giving you. We will be sending it to you later. Panelists, I know I sent it to you earlier. I do have some questions for you at the end, and they're going to have questions for you, but like, just please use your little squeakies. That's Bruno. Yeah, okay, keep him occupied, because I have a feeling he's already been like, he's already been looking. Just graduated, working about to support your creative side. How do I support my career and have more time to create? And we have our friend Kirby, also got the pink memo. Go on next. So, South Florida ecosystem. So what it looks like is we have new artists. Okay, so I have a master's in environmental studies, so I kind of liken this to an arts ecosystem and an actual ecosystem, South Florida ecosystem. So here we have new artists. So they kind of settle in the mangrove litter. This is like the juveniles. So this is house shows, creative projects with friends, smaller emerging venues. Then you go to the juveniles hide in mangroves and microhabitats. So start working for creative institutions, orgs, galleries, or theater. Start building up your creative network. Most of you are probably around this area, right? Okay. So then we work towards older juveniles. Oh, these are grouper, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to touch that. Okay, so older juveniles, they migrate to coral reefs. So they start exploring residencies, find a studio or workspace, applying for grants. Anyone here? And that's kind of where, yeah, right? Okay, so we're starting to move there. Okay, so then you go into the like settled.
No, you don't press anything. So if you get too close to the projector,
if I get too close, got it. Okay.
It can burn your eye.
Oh.
I saw it through
Yeah. So you have right here, okay, so settle in your community, regional and national shows and grants. I would say this is where like Sandra and Alejandro are like here. Sorry. And then, okay, and then you have up here the fishing area. So, well, first of all, contributing to younger artist success, that's also part of us, right? We're giving back to the ecosystem and helping out. And then Catherine, I was trying to decide, because you're not a fisherman, you're the driver that goes down and takes all the pictures of the fish, and then shows the fisherman look how beautiful this is. Like, you could be here, you could be enjoying this. You need to know about these fish. And then you go into more museums, collections, and mainstream success. So this is kind of how our ecosystem works here in South Florida. There are like different portals that you can use, like Green Space being one of them, Locust Projects being one of them. So we're just trying to show you like you can make your own way, but there is kind of a flow that Miami likes to put people in. Sometimes that can feel a little boxy, yes, but it's also about like knowing how to use the ecosystem to your advantage. Okay. So general observations, so you have the big fish. These are the big institutions, right? So they mostly collect artwork based off of international art markets, fairs, and museums collecting mission. More likely to engage you in educational programming than necessarily collect you, at least at this point in your careers, okay? The education departments are your friends. This is a good way to get your foot in the door, to do some programming for them, and they tend towards international artists that hint at Miami things. Okay, we're going to go through some of them. So here is MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art is in North Miami. Amanda Kovac, she's the curator of education. And they have a couple different opportunities for local artists. They have Art in the Plaza, that's an open call that happens 4 times a year. So as you can see, like this Chris Friday here or Sterling Brook, that's a really great opportunity for public art access for you, okay? Then you also have like, Jazz in the Plaza, so if you're a local performer, they also do jazz, I think it's once a month out there. So that's something that you can get involved with if you're a performing artist. And then summer camps, if you are an art educator, they hire people for education services. Okay, so the Bass Museum, I know that we have some Bassers in here. So this is Kylie Crook, she's the Director of Education. This is actually where Kylie brought me to Miami as an intern, that's how I got here. So, so they have the open, the new one, thank you. Thank you, Kylie. I thank her all the time, every single time we see her. And actually we'll talk about how the arts ecosystem also in Miami is very much about play. And like, just like, so I was with Kylie for a summer, then they brought me back, and then I was at my end, and then I was at a pool party at their house, and then that's how I got my job at PAM. Was through meeting somebody like
iconic.
Yeah. So like, so sometimes it just is, yeah, you know, just gotta say what you need. So they have the new monuments call. So Naja was the one who talked about their new monuments piece. So it's a sculpture that they do in front of the Bass Museum. That's up for a year. Then they have the teaching artist for STEAM. I put that in the group chat a little bit ago. Yeah, you saw that? Yeah.
Just wanted to double check. We're getting all of this.
Yeah, well, I promise I'll
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I know, you're right. Sorry. Yes, I will put this too. And then they hire artists for activations in the museum. So ICA Institute of Contemporary Art, you have Lisa Fernandez is the Director of Education. They do teaching artists, so you basically put together like a kind of a packet of what you're going to do for some of these, like from September to December. So they don't necessarily hire you permanently, it's more by contract base. Perez Art Museum Miami, so they have 10 different teaching positions usually. They'll have people that are doing art within the museum. There'll also be people that are hosting and doing tours. They tend to hire from within, so if you start in visitor services, shops, or the restaurant, they tend to hire up within. Hire local performers for Thursday parties, partner with dancers and speakers of the arts. Yeah, I said, note, these are places where I built the skills and network to do with the P Studio. So how I learned how to do all these panels, how I learned how to do these workshops, to talk about art and all these things came from these places. So sometimes you don't know why you're necessarily in an ecosystem or a place. It's helping you build the skills for later on. And like now I'm trying to develop a nonprofit, and like understanding the nonprofit system came from my time at PAM. Oh, and most likely to give South Florida artists a show goes to NSU Museum. So Lisa Quinn is the Director of Education?
Yes.
Yeah. Margo works at NSU. They're up in Fort Lauderdale, really wonderful. And as you've been seeing, Margo's been posting in the chat also about the free days and everything. So please keep on, putting out these resources. And then we have FIU, which is the Frost Museum. They also do a lot of local shows. It used to be Amy Galvin, but then she just left,
She's
right?
now at the Museum of Art and Design.
Yeah, I'm not sure where she went. Do you know?
Yeah,
Oh,
she
no,
was-
sorry, but have they replaced her yet? Okay, so just wait. We'll see. Do you want to get on this issue?
Ravel Museum?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because I can do it.
Yeah.
So they have an internship program every summer where they bring in curators that have recently graduated or artists. It's a phenomenal program. It's a very intense program. Don and Mira are very much involved in the program. But it's everything from going out and doing studio visits to really understanding how the museum works, how the curatorial team puts together the shows. So it's a very immersive and intensive program, and they have 4 to 5, maybe it's 4 to 6 interns each summer. And many of their interns have gone on to later be a part of their permanent team. So it's a great way, and it's they're a small museum in the way that they operate.
Yeah, can you just explain the difference between like they're kind of a private institution, right, versus like the more...
They are, I don't know that I can really, I mean, they are, for a very long time, they were just called the Ravel Family Collection, and then they became an official museum. So they still do operate in many ways like a museum, but the collection and everything is controlled by the family, is owned by the family, and all decisions are made by the family. Unlike having a board of directors, and a curatorial team that make many of the decisions.
Yeah, and there's a couple different, Dale and Bruce just left. But there are a couple different private institutions in Miami that are like that, where it's more of like families controlling what is not necessarily like the board. Okay. So smaller orgs to get involved with that are really wonderful. So Deidre Carrington created this amazing network called Commissioner, and actually several different arts organizations now use that same sort of model. It's kind of becoming, I think, like a very national sort of like.
Yeah, it's been something that's been, I mean, organizations like that have been around for a while. They create smaller editions of work with artists. In her case, always local artists, but her goal is to create more collectors. You know, more people that are buying artists' work. So hopefully more artists can make money off what they do for a living. So her program is that you can become a collector, and that means I believe it's $1,500 a year, and you get 4 editions associated with a different artist each quarter that produces an edition. And there's always something unique to each of the editions. So while they're all very similar, there's something unique to each one. And there are 50 members that get, or 40 members, excuse me, that get the artwork. But then you can stay on, and you can join just as a supporter. I think it's very inexpensive. It might be $150 or something, which means you can attend all of their events, you can meet the artists. It's a very inclusive organization. She's done an incredible job with it. It's amazing, and Naomi's the same way. Naomi, the two that you put up are really just extraordinary human beings. Naomi is more focused on environmental issues, and she does more special projects. There's no fee to be involved. And she works with artists around the world. She's very involved. I worked with her on a collaboration between Miami and Norway. That was about climate and sustainability. She's now dating a man in Norway, so she's
More reason to visit, right?
Yes. But she's fantastic, and all of their, commissioners, it's a nominal fee, but it's a great program, and everything that Naomi does for the most part is great.
Yeah, so as an artist, when you're working with them, so you're getting 40 pieces at one time purchased, right? You're making a collection that then goes out and get like a bit hosted. And then Naomi's definitely more like project-based kind of approaches artists to do some different pieces. This right here is actually from the Deering Estate, which we'll talk a little bit more about. So that was one of the pieces that they did. It was so interesting. It was the trees were reading Shakespeare, so they had like these like, but it was also about the Everglades and talking about like the Everglades and destruction. And, it was so beautiful. Yeah.
And both of these organizations pay artists, so that is one thing I am very vocal about, is that you should not work for free. Please don't work for free.
Tanya, where are you? That's your
Never
motto
work
also.
for free.
I see a hand, yes.
Yeah, I just want to shout out Naomi because like one of their projects that they did out of the Mississippi Reservation.
Artists to places and helping with events. So, for example, they helped Christina Peterson, and they connected them to the Biscayne Nature Center. Well, they already had a relationship, but they did the gallery show there, and then they did like boat tours and everything. So, very much about the education, but also helping artists to just present themselves in the best light and bring together people that they might not have immediate access to. That's definitely what arts advocates are for, is to help you in your career in order to, get the messages out. That's why they care about you as an artist, but also care that you're doing the work, especially this group here where you're like, you have social messages attached to what you're doing. So the Camp Hong, has anyone been to the Camp Hong?
Nope.
Okay, they have some bands.
Oh,
yeah.
the amount of people that have.
Yeah, right? And some of them have shown at the Camp Hong. Yeah, a couple. So the Camp Hong it used to be David Fairchild's actual home. And it's a garden space by the National Tropical Botanical Gardens. And this is Brian Sidoti, and he just took over about a year and a half ago. Absolute sweetheart, has completely changed the narrative from weddings to community access, arts organizations, like talks, panels, all the things. So really wonderful person to connect with, and they're always doing different workshops, and they're always looking for artists to host different things.
Look, this is a great opportunity for, I would like to say for visual artists, but also even performance-based artists that want to implement some sort of visual component into their practice. You get to basically work, you get an opportunity to be at a library as your home base for a year. And you get all of the resources in the library. You get to work with the community through children's and families. They basically get art classes for free via you. We have a resident over here as well, yes. And then at the end of the year, you get a wonderful opportunity to have an exhibition.
That operate as a stepping stone. Like definitely, this was like the first residency for many people, and it gets you other residencies.
Yeah.
I think the deadline already passed, but I was posting it in the group chat before. I know we had to move the thing, so be looking out for what I've been posting.
Yeah. Oh,
There's
and
me.
great. Yeah, this was our a student group show that we did at the main library. And yeah, you have Neil Bordeaux and Melanie Oliva, and the other thing too to think about. I know we're all here in Miami, but this is a national program as well. So if you know other artists, or if you are planning on moving, which please don't, you know, we do have locations in New York,
Detroit.
Chicago, Detroit.
New Orleans.
New Orleans, I don't believe is no longer there. LA and Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Next. So kind of within that same vein, Arts for Learning is also another program originally started by Jane Gilbert, who is our Chief Heat Officer here in Miami-Dade, and we'll talk a little bit more about her tomorrow. But Arts for Learning, yeah, same sort of thing. Like you're setting up this teaching and community spaces. This one is not necessarily a year. It's kind of like what the ICA was, like that you're getting like, right, like a couple months or so that you are contracted to do. You Arts for Learning, right?
3 months.
Okay, do you want to tell me something about it?
So Arts for Learning is a group. It's you having a group of students that you're educating with the programming that you pitch. My thing this summer was making a quilt out of all their art pieces, so it was very inclusive to their thoughts and their ideas, and breaking that down to be a bigger thing that represented their community. A lot of the community being Asian Americans, African American kids, and Spanish kids, building that quilt and creating that narrative of being community together.
Oh, the Arts for Learning? Okay.
Yeah, like straight out of college, I taught for a summer in a nearby school because I grew up in North Dade, so it was in Carroll City, and I did a whole summer dance program for the kids there. So it was a great stepping stone to get some education and some, you know, stuff on your resume.
It's business.
The gallery's business. The gallery's business. It's not just to show your artwork. Okay. Next. Okay, public libraries. Okay, so Oscar Fuentes provided some of this stuff. They're the curator of the library system. So the library has over 7,000 artworks in its permanent collection. It focuses on African American, Latino, and Miami artists, and has Curtis Young, Edward Rushka, long list, Jake Lawrence, okay. So a lot of artwork all over and all of the places. And you can also, we'll talk about like shows and stuff, but it's funny because like until you kind of like realize that it's there, then you start going into libraries and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, oh, I recognize that art. It's kind of like as soon as you turn that key, then you actually start looking for it. Next. So you can do an exhibition at the library space. You can pitch one. So how did I have this? This was a show curated by Umbretta, and they pitched a show at the Miami Beach Regional Library, and this is like an opening reception that they have. Special call for temporary exhibitions. Okay, next. And then this is, I mean, I'm not going to read this. I just put this into the slide so that when I send it to you, you can actually have things to click on. So this is how you propose a show. You can click that little thing or put that into the, don't click it now. But you can click that and that will give you the guidelines to make a show, okay? The Vasari Project. So this is really special, archiving your work. So the library system actually archives South Florida artists and gives them a physical space. And with that archive, it means that your artwork is protected, but also that if you ever have like a future museum show, then the museums have access to use it for their exhibitions.
To connect to that insight, the truth is, I should say, the truth from my perspective is that in the performers here in the house, yeah, there's some, I know I saw last night, even if you don't do that as your main thing, there's a lot of performers in this house. It's got less, I would say at this moment, South Florida has less institutional anchors in the performing arts. Much fewer big fish and fewer medium-sized fish. One of my things is hoping some of our smaller organizations get to that level. Miami, let's say where we were at last night, Miami Light Project is an example of an organization that's landed at that mid-sized plateau and is hanging on and is doing good work and has for a while. There's a few others, but there's less. I'm going to say a good piece of news about that, and then the challenging piece of news about that. The good news is there's a lot of grassroots activity. There's a lot of, it's not hard to get people together, find a space, and do your shit. You know what I mean? Like, because there's fewer barriers to access, there's a lot of community activity that you can gather, you can put a pop-up show together. It's possible here. You can do it. The challenging news is you got to get creative if you want to be based in South Florida and monetize your performance. Because one thing to just shout out, we're talking about those of you who are in a season of your life where you want to professionalize one of the things you do. I always want to make a moment to shout out, amateur just means doing something for amor. You know what I mean? Like, you might have art in your life or a season of your life where you're like, this is for me, this is therapeutic, brings my people together, I do it for ritual, for ceremony, for healing. This conversation is specifically about the seasons of your life or the aspects of your art that you do want to monetize, that you want to take to them, you want to get some value out of. You have to be creative in the performing arts in South Florida. Two things I'll say, and I think we'll circle back to them, is one thing I, in my own journey, am starting to learn and get better at and learn from the folks who have been doing it, is how to connect your work to regional and national sources of support. There ain't no reason that you can't live in Miami and have your shit tour. There ain't no reason you can't live in Miami and do residencies all over the fucking world. There ain't no reason if you make a dance or you make a play that you can't develop it and bring it back to Miami. That's kind of the season I'm in my life, where I write a play here and it gets developed in places that have more resources, right, and then I bring it back. You know what I mean? And then the other thing, sorry, I'm gonna pass the mic again, but is people like Sandra, people like Osmer McCoy are teaching us how you can bust through and gain some of the capital that is flowing into the visual arts and borrow it and borrow it as performing arts. I've met and learned from people who are like, I know you used to only do sculptures and paintings, but let me explain to you why you need to see my activation. And it's about a little bit about code switching, learning the language, you know, but what they're doing is they're starting to curate performance. Green Space has done a lot of it recently.
Performers, film your stuff.
Yeah.
Film your stuff.
Yes.
Film it. You need it for things.
That is like the most important thing, sorry. Yeah, that is like the most important thing,
Especially for performance-based artists, is your documentation. So if you're ever creating a budget, please have a substantial amount for your documentation, because unfortunately, since we're working in this ephemeral space, which is a beautiful space, right? Because it is about that energy, that exchange that happens in the moment, living in the moment, right? Such a theater word, right? But if you don't have that documentation, it's like it never existed. And that is sad, because it's happened to me multiple times, where you put your heart and soul into, and sometimes it could be that, you know, these per se spaces are like, yeah, we got somebody. We got
one friend with
somebody.
the phone, not enough.
And then they got that somebody, and you're trusting that somebody, but that somebody's camera fell down in the middle of your performance. So now you got like 30 seconds that got chopped off or something, right? So again, things happen, we're human, just really put a lot of emphasis. The work is very important, but the documentation is so crazy, because that's what they see. That's it, that's all they see.
And the code switching with that, for those that are musicians, and you say you're making a music video for your thing, like you can use the visual art support,
Exactly.
you just have to find ways to kind of like twirl it a little bit.
And if you're handy with the camera, one way you can show up for your performing artist friends is offer your services for a discounted fee, subsidized fee. Let's borrow y'all. I don't know, I will talk about it in a minute, but we're trying to raise resources and offer each other resources. If you're handy with a camera, your dance artist friend, your theater artist friend will be in debt for you forever if you show up and help them out.
And that's your work too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're developing then your portfolio as it together, so.
Rise together, y'all.
Yes.
So I want to say something really quick because I spoke to Noah about this as well. We do a micro grant. We just had one, and it is not only for visual artists. So Noah so kindly was like, "I'm gonna give this one to my visual folks," but I spoke to them specifically because I wanted them to know that that $500 that we give is literally for a monopod, for a camera, or for any supply that you need. You can write that down, and you can, exactly what Sandra said, document it and put it in a microgrant application so that we can see it and we can see what you're working on. It literally could be, I need $300 to pay a videographer to take a video of me. Like that, exactly, that part. So I'm here for you.
Save those receipts and invoices and make sure you take them off on your taxes. Tax business.
We're gonna go down rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Like folks might want to add to this, but I've only gone to see shows at Main Street Players. It's in Miami Lakes, correct?
Yes.
It's got a really intimate proscenium space. They do their own programming. So one of the things to keep in mind is the difference between an organization that just presents and one that produces. So like the Arch, their two big spaces are presenting spaces. They bring work from out, right? Main Street Players produces a season of its own work. But they're also, one of the things I really appreciate about them is they're really active members of the community. It's not low barriers to access to use that space.
Yes.
I've gone and seen other young startup theater companies who have been, I'm sure, offered that space at very low cost to use it for readings and development opportunities. So if you're cooking something up, that might be a stop for your work as it's developing.
One of our alumni is currently doing stuff there. I've been posting.
Who's the alumni?
Yeah, so I will share. Stefania.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have to echo that, everything that he said. I mean, I kind of dabbled in some playwriting, and they had a playwright festival, like an open reading and stuff. So this is a great opportunity. If you're thinking about like even dabbling into like performance and theater, this is like a really nice space to just get your feet wet. Yeah.
They just, I just took part in their summer session of their One Act Festival.
Yeah.
So they are currently still going to tell us for the winter session, but that is a new, it's a new opportunity. I don't believe they had a winter session last year, because I only watched the summer one. But if you're interested in...
The Playwright Festival? Yeah.
Not Playwright, One Act.
Oh, they had One Act last year.
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity if you want to audition and dabble with speaking theater. You can literally just get one role or have an ensemble role, and they're really, really willing to always see new faces.
Yeah.
And to add to that, they also give opportunities for like theater makers in regards to like if you're not only an actor, you can direct as well. I've seen people who had opportunities to produce their plays with the One Act festivals as well, so it's a great introductory into like theater making here.
Yes, all of that.
Lab. So there's a few slides up here that are places where you can develop new work. Theater Lab at Florida Atlantic is a place that will accept your submission, your early draft plays, and they will choose a season's worth of plays that they're going to develop. That means get together for readings, share it eventually in a public space. There's a few opportunities. The next slide I know is another one, but Florida Atlantic has Theater Lab. You should know about it. Send your drafts there. Also, FIU has one every summer called the Greenhouse. I think they've honed it down to, I think, one play a summer. They used to be 3 or 4, but they're still cooking, and they will accept submissions and spend the summer working on a new piece. That's a familiar face.
Yeah, okay, so, sorry. I love summer shorts. So, Miami, wait, what is it? City Theater Miami, but don't, I worked with them for over 10 years as a choreographer and movement director. They have their Summer Shorts Festival that is basically a national playwriting competition or submission, and you get to basically perform these 10-minute plays. But I think the wonderful thing for the performers is that this is a really amazing opportunity to just audition and get into one of these shows, right? And this is like Kim, if you want to talk about it, it's almost like it is the craziest process,
very
because
fast-paced process,
yes,
for sure. I mean, I did
3
their
weeks.
program. Yeah, it's 3 weeks of rehearsal, and then you perform for the entire month.
Yeah.
So I did their program as an intern last year. So they have a program called the Emerging Artist, and you get the behind the scenes, backstage experience, so you could stage manage. They've gotten real specific too, like they're constantly adding to that program. So if you want to do marketing and producing and all that stuff, there's little strands for that as well. And you even have the opportunity as an intern to perform. And so I auditioned as an actor this year, and for the homegrown playwrights, we workshopped it like constantly for like 3 hours every single day for each play. Like, it's really intense, but it's a great place because you see different people at different stages of the playwriting, right? So we had some more experienced playwrights where there wasn't that much to add, and then there was other playwrights who weren't at that same level, and we still gave them the amount of time and the amount of feedback. But it's a great time as an actor as well, because you get to go from different heights as an actor. Like, you're doing a really comedic piece and then a dramatic piece, quick changes, all that fun jazz.
Super physical, on your feet. You're learning all these different plays, and you gotta be on it. And then tagging on to that is the homegrown, because they've switched the format a little bit in the last couple of years, is if you are a playwright and you are developing a work, then this homegrown, festival is sort of like a way to really bring it to another level.
Right. It's like some people, it's their first play and it's produced at the Adrian,
Right, exactly.
So they have like that program where you can audition, usually through the Susie J. Westfall playwriting festival competition.
Right.
But you can also like apply as a homegrown playwright, and you get to really work and hone in on that play that will then eventually be produced at the Adrian.
And Safanja
was also a playwright last year.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
Announcements coming soon, but they do teacher grants, they do the film program, and stay tuned, there's going to be some more. They're thinking about doing some cross collaboration prizes as well. So again, there's interesting things coming up.
And Houston's on there, yeah. Okay, next. Okay, so this one, very important, and I know I should have given more slides to it, but it's only this one.
Yeah, I want to talk.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the Miami-Dade, the county and the city, they give grants to artists. So the easiest one to apply to is probably the Miami Individual Artist Program. You literally put in a couple of your pictures, like your bio, your statement, whatever, and then they give out grants. It's anywhere, I think, from like $1,000 to $10,000, and you don't have to do a show, you don't have to do nothing. It's just to support you. Yes.
So that's visual arts only?
All of them.
It's all of them. Okay.
Yeah.
You should be sending an application to that every year.
Yeah, every year.
Honestly, there's
Yeah.
no
And I think, is it twice a year?
Yeah, you should.
No, it's once a year.
You need to pay attention to what Miami-Dade County
Yes.
is doing. They are giving a lot of support and funding to artists in the community. Please, please, please apply. I don't think enough people take advantage of all of the opportunities provided by Miami-Dade County.
Can I add, because one of the things, as we, I'm sure, run out of time, you may be wondering, well, we just got like rained on by information. A couple of things that you can do quite practically. You mentioned following, right? Jumping on Instagram, following. That will be a little bit subject to the algorithmic gods, how much they show. I would say choose 2, 4, 5 organizations that really piqued your interest and join their newsletter. Have them email you when those deadlines are coming up, what those programs are. Getting to be a really thoughtful curator, it doesn't help you if you get newsletters from so many places that you just click, delete, and throw. That's not helpful. So delete the ones that you're not reading. Focus on the handful that you do peek at and you open. One of them, I'm gonna make a case for, should be News to Use, which is their monthly, the county's monthly email that tells you everything it's offering for that month. It's a one-stop email that you look and you read, oh my God, I forgot the individual artist grant. That should be one. The rest of them let your interests follow you, but get them to email you every month so that you don't have to worry about remembering all that shit.
If you're a dancer, they have, or a choreographer, I should say, they have a Miami choreographer grant, so up to $10,000 to help produce a work. There's also a playwright development program. Artist access. So artist access is really interesting. If you have something that you want to go to that's going to help you in the future, like some sort of workshop, something like that, that's not necessarily a residency, that's not even here, doesn't have to be here, they will reimburse you up to $2,000 of your costs. So you can, you know, pay up front, but then you have all those numbers and receipts, you turn it in, and you get reimbursed if you're selected for the program. And then the Artist Professional Development Program is Amanda, they host a whole bunch of different workshops that go over all these things, or how to write a better artist statement. Some of y'all need to take that after I saw your application. But like, there's a lot of professional development that they do through the county that can help you. And they also, when you're applying to a lot of these things, they give you the best structure for applying to things. They literally like, okay, so your artist bio, it's like this, like your name, live here, what year did you graduate from this school? There's a certain format that they give you as part of the structure, which will help you in everything in terms of how you're applying. Because it's a lot of people who like there's a certain way they want to see it done, and it will just help you structure your things better for future applications.
I'm sorry, but I just want, because I don't know how much time we have, but I review a lot of applications, okay? Please don't use ArtSpeak. If your friend that has no idea what you do, can't understand from your artist statement what you do, change it. Everybody loves to sound, you know, interesting and smart and all of these things. I read so many applications and I have no clue as to what people are doing. I actually reviewed one from a friend of mine this morning who has been in the arts for 20 years. And I turned it back to her, I go, what the hell does this say? I was like, I know you. I know your organization. I have no idea what this says. And I just said, in plain words, this is what you do. And she was like, yeah, but that sounds so simple. I'm like, yeah, it should. People should be able to get to it, because people that are reviewing applications are not all art people. Everyone in an application review, there are always lay people that are not part of it. They need to understand. Show it to your mom. Show it to your brother. Like, show it to somebody. Please.
I'm gonna take personally, and then feedback from, and let me tell you something, my 15-year-old gave me some really good feedback, and he read it again, and he was like, I get it, and I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Because we're done, right?
Well, here, make a picture, but no, Sandra just has to go, like, right now. So we'll take a picture, and then, how many more slides do we have?
Because one thing I don't want, everybody, you guys have all talked about it, you seem supportive of one another, but your best people are right here. They're the people that surround you, support one another.
It's so crucial. The one thing I wrote down, this is like the one soapbox that I'll stand on, and you segue, it's a perfect, is like you can think about, this is my Virgo, my hyper Virgo brain, you can think about your time as an artist, the part of your time that you want to professionalize, as being split into thirds. You should attempt, and this changes with seasons, this is I'm making this up, but a third of your time making, a third of your time learning,
Yes.
and sometimes we forget that down here. We're so keen on making and resourcing that we forget about we should always be, there's somebody doing something in Buenos Aires or Berlin that'll blow your fucking mind and it'll change the work you make. And if you stop learning because all you're doing is fundraising and doing your own work, you will close yourself off to the avenues that'll just take you to the next level and make you unique. You take that online class on dramaturgy, you become one of the few fucking dramaturgs in South Florida, that becomes how you pay your bills. You take that class in Gaga, suddenly you're getting opportunities to teach Gaga because you're one of the few people who invest in that. Learn, teach, and the third one is resource yourself. But resourcing, everyone jumps to money. Yes, money is one of the things you're trying to gather, of course, but I'm gonna name a few others. Language, about how to talk about your project. Turn your fucking voice memo on when you're describing it to a friend. That's gonna become the project description when you're sitting down. Every time you sit in front of a grant, if you have to start from scratch, you're not gonna apply to a lot of grants. But if you have a fucking iPhone note that you've been constantly, every time you talk about the project, you write, oh, I said that shit, that sounded good. Can you say that? You should be able to sit in front of a grant, open that iPhone memo, and have your grant written. Because you've been talking about the work. Collect language, collect spaces, go around. You know, when I was in Alexander's chair, I'm not wealthy, I don't have a trust fund, but I've gathered resources. You call people, exactly what Catherine's saying. Hey, we're doing this thing, I really believe in it, could you give us a night? Beth Boone at Miami Light Project. Sure, yeah, we have an open Thursday night. You're collecting the spaces that you go to. Usually you start by either going as a fan or going as a volunteer. They get to know you, they'll answer your calls and your emails, they'll hook you up. Spaces and people. I'm not lying, I have a note here. Whenever I meet someone, Catherine and Sandra's name are on that note. I don't know, it's not about acquisitive consumers. It's like when I go see the open studios, I'm gonna write a note to Catherine saying, oh my God, I'm so glad you gave me that recommendation. It was so amazing you invited. And that's just seeding. Who knows what'll come of that?
Right.
Who knows what'll come of that? If you don't have a trust fund, raise your hand if you have a trust fund. I didn't think so. You can accumulate wealth via relationships. You can become rich in relationships.
Okay, just get to know the person, because this community is very small.
Yeah.
They will recognize, I have so many people in my life that I probably never actually met, and I don't care when I was introduced to them. They're now in my life forever, okay? Because they showed up, they came out, like, please, just, you gotta get out there and build relationships.
And we know traffic and
Their
parking
goals.
What I'm able to do is just by being just by being outside and realizing that all the things that we're trying to bring back, the strategies, the mangroves, the trees, the tree canopy, even the soil, all those different things that heal us will also heal people. Stop people from getting hurt in the first place, I think nature-based solutions are the way to go. And just centering myself in them also, I will realize that, okay, the earth will heal itself, so if we just bring, help it, then I think we'll be all right.
Thank you, Sam, for that question. I had a whole other vibe when I read that question. I can't help it sometimes. But I grew up on rap hip hop, and one of my favorite lines back in the day when I was a whole different person was, reason for a gun, only one. Strong believer in self-preservation. A line from Outcast Straight 3000, and it's like, the whole self-care thing is like a CIA psyop, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's like the more you dig into it, is self-care as we know it, and a little bit of research came from the Black Panthers. Amazing. You see what I'm saying? Came from the Black Panthers. It was about community. What do we need as a community to take care of ourselves? But all this self-care stuff that turned into spa day, right? What can I do for myself? Let me go and be alone and isolate. And that is exactly what capitalism wants us to do. So for self-preservation, I turn to community. Yeah, I do my best to preserve my community. I do my best to preserve my family, my friends, my son. I'm always knowing the hell out of my people. Hey, what you doing today? Want to hang out? Play some video games, move marathon, whatever the hell. But more community. Whatever capitalism wants us to do the opposite of that. Yeah.
So our final question is, what is one of your favorite, most impactful, tangible actions you think others can take to address our issue?
I'm gonna jump on this one first. Whenever I talk about like climate gentrification, displacement, and all those different things, a lot of people are like, they just feel defeated. It's just like, what am I supposed to do? You know, everything in Florida as a whole is just so set up to incentivize developers first. So, despite how much they talk about expanding public housing, you know, and doing all these things that are going to get the houses off the streets, you know, they're still, at the end of the day, probably going to go with the route that's going to help their pockets, right? Because there's no income tax and the property tax, that's what drives a lot of the funding for the state, right? With that, I always say that, okay, well, the first step to being able to combat things like that is knowing about it. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know the root behind all these different things. We were talking about a lot of legislation, like there's no female trees on the street. People don't know that. It's education. You know, for a lot of people that are losing their homes because they're offered $50K when their home is worth $1 million, at least financial literacy. You know, bringing that into the community. It's the education. So even though, you know, I'm a meteorologist, I always talk about, okay, well, we should understand a heat warning, or excuse me, like a tornado watch from a tornado warning, something like that can save somebody's life, right? But that goes across all of climate justice, that goes across all procedural justice, environmental justice, etc. Education. There's something that you know that I guarantee you somebody sitting next to you does not know in some way, shape, or form. So that education as a whole is going to help us move the movement forward. It may not be with giant steps, you know, but a step in the right direction is a step. Right? It's progress.
Try to speak from the heart, as Sister Ruth said. I'm gonna tell you this: you're gonna have to save your money, buy the land. You're gonna have to start eating from the ground and doing things with your hand. And you have to be very intentional with letting your spirit guide you, because it is trauma brewing. It's something brewing, and it's a fear that it's not going to be enough food, that it's going to be cut off. It's fear that we're going to have cyber attacks. All of this is real, so you cannot be distracted. Whatever you are unaware of and you are lackadaisical, it's time to pay attention. You have to pay attention to the environment, because the sun is not doing what the sun usually does. Nature is telling us, screaming at us, telling us, pay attention, and you want to be safe, okay? And so, I don't care what your race and nationality, but a lot of people are not going to be able to afford those opportunities to get to where they need to go. And go to the land, and they don't have a land to go to, but you have to be mindful and set and write the vision and make it plain. Okay, you have to be able to do that. And that's my action. You have to take care of yourself and check on, like you said, you have to check on each other, but you got to keep moving forward. And do not get distracted with the social media.
Yeah, want to pick off where both y'all left off. Thank you for mentioning the land. Sister Jai started us off with talking about the indigenous land. I want to go ahead and acknowledge that we are on Tequesta land. That was the indigenous people of South Florida. And I say, yeah, decolonize. It's the number one thing we all can do, de-fucking colonize. Okay, so, okay, cool. And by decolonizing, I don't mean on some liberal, we're going to change the way we talk and do some social media posts, right? Yeah, I mean, come on now. I mean, with all due respect, what's going on in Haiti right now, that's decolonization. What's going on in Palestine right now, that's decolonization. I'm not talking about just land acknowledgement, I'm talking about landing back. Give the damn land back to the indigenous people and joining in that fight. How we join in that fight? Join an organization. The more radical, the better. The more liberal organizations. When I say join an organization, I don't mean the Democratic Party, y'all. Talking about join an organization on the ground, like my sisters over at Sustain the Culture, okay? Join an organization on the ground like Black Collective, like Black Men Build, like Sister Z's organization over here, okay? The other thing I would say we could do is we can study, right? Just like my brother was saying, we can study. But when I say study, same thing, not like that liberal stuff, right? If you wanted to build a bridge, you don't go out there and refugee states, no, you're going to study the theory of how to build a bridge, right? I'm a musician. I learned the music theory. It's not that scientific, but it's still music theory, right? Same with organizing. There is a radical, rich, radical tradition, history, a radical theory that was developed by people who came before us, that fought and died and made sure to put their words on paper for us to learn. All these random ass questions you see popping up on social media, like, why am I saying fuck Kamala Harris? Just go read some Kwame Ture and go read, it's not that hard to figure out, okay? Go read some Claudia Jones, it ain't that hard to figure out, you see what I'm saying? Like these things that we struggle with today, our people, our ancestors have been struggling with for hundreds of years now. The answers are there, we just gotta sit down and study, and then get up and do that work. That's what I would advise for everybody.
It's all been said, you know? My answer was going to be join an organization, so that is entirely correct. We all have been talking about how we can't do this work alone, and we can't be expected to. And so the obvious solution is join an organization. And then again, like St. James said, moving towards being anti-imperialist, being anti-colonial. Don't just pat yourself on the back because you joined an organization. Really shape it actively and help it stand with the principles that you have and the principles that we need for us to achieve the justice that we deserve. Education as well, 100%. And my new and unique answer that I always try to tell people to is talk to your neighbor. Like, raise your hand if you talk to your neighbor. That's great. I don't talk to my neighbors. I want to. I don't speak Creole as yet, so I don't speak to them as yet. But I'm trying to learn because the truth is that your neighbor is your first responder when it comes to disaster. And that's just one aspect of why talking to your neighbor is important. As I was thinking of this last night, I was thinking about like, what would it look like if I wrote on my block to, instead of having concrete driveways, have like grass or driveways that were able to accept floodwater, and our streets wouldn't flood anymore. But that's not something I need to go to the city council for. I could literally go down my block, knock on every door, and be like, hey, do you guys want to do this? And then we can see if we can make that happen. And truly just getting connected with the folks that are right around you in this room, but literally physically next to your domicile, is one of the most important tangible actions that we can take right after this meeting.
Quick reminder, y'all, the homeless person on the street corner, that's your neighbor too. Talk to them too.
That was our last question, so that concludes our panel. We don't have time for Q&As, but everyone is still going to be here, so feel free to talk to or ask any questions to any of the panelists or give each other what was thought-provoking, or even if you have a notepad or notebook, write down some to-dos. Talk to any of the organizations that are still here that are more than welcome to share with you what they do and how you can get involved. I just want to say thank you for everyone, the panelists, the audience, the organizations, the people who helped set up, Mayor Angelo, Chris, thank you so much for allowing us to be in your beautiful art space. Rebecca, who's not here, but she helped us also secure this space as well. And let's see if there's anyone else. And then lastly, the artists as catalysts who are inside. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I'll just mention that now because I will forget. There's screen printing right here at this yellow table. So if you all like to screen print, go ahead to that yellow table afterwards. We have shirts and totes. And if you brought a shirt or a tote, you can have it. Yeah, so artists as catalysts. So I was an artist last year as a catalyst, and that really inspired me to merge art and education to address environmental justice issues. So all of the artists who are here, who are catalysts, who are like the roots of Miami, I just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and immerse yourself in creative spaces or activist spaces that can help nurture the seed that we are planting in this program. And I want to thank Tadia as well, who, and really just everyone who helped bring this together. Like, this was not the original vision. It just so happened that The Artists Catalyst was going to be next door the same day that we were hosting this event. It just so happened that this art gallery space was like showcasing how extreme heat is impacting marginalized communities. It just so like all the things just so happened. So I'm so thankful that it just so happened in the way that it did. And yeah, if you would like to stay, like our event will be ending around 1, so you'll see the organizations cleaning up around that time. But after that, there's going to be a summit that is focused on extreme heat. And like Chris mentioned earlier, we're going to have speakers like Dr. Marvin Dunn, Houston Cypress, and other community members who are actually doing the work to address the heat issues happening here in Miami-Dade. And that concludes our panel. Thank you.
Hello everybody. This is really weird because I'm a teacher and yet I'm nervous talking about. I usually talk about my students' work, so I guess today I have to talk about mine. I wanted to show you guys this today because I'm sure you guys saw my painting with the red hair over there. I left early yesterday because I wasn't feeling well, so I wasn't able to share my work. But I felt like since y'all had already seen it, I wanted to show you something different. And ironically, it coincides with the art and technology theme that we're doing today. So I wanted to share this piece because it's very different from the traditional classical oil portrait that I did. And this is kind of where I am now in my practice, where I've started utilizing technology a lot more. I'm drawing a lot more on my iPad just because who wants to carry around a whole bunch of oil paints and linseed oil and brush it? And we got time for that. I also work 2 jobs. I'm a full-time high school art teacher. I also am the operations manager at Erie. So very busy person, and the iPad and technology is just kind of what works best for me right now. And so this piece, I made this, I think around New Year's of this year. And it kind of shows that experience of being in an intermediary place. I felt like at the end of 2023, the whole world was like, you know, and so that's me standing in between the past and the future. And on the bottom, there's a shedded snake skin because as we enter the new year, we shed our old skins.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my work is figurative. I focus mainly on the female body to sort of increase representation of the female figure. And as a female person living in this body, I'm also non-binary, I go by they, them pronouns, but I also acknowledge what I look like in the body that I was born in, and I can't deny those experiences. So that's why I continue to show the female body in my work. And I also don't like when men are always drawing naked women. It's kind of annoying. It's like, so I think more women should take back their bodies and their imagery, especially in art. And I encourage men, if you are an artist and you paint women, pay them, pay your models, support them, and or find a different subject that isn't necessarily the hyperfixation of the female form. We can zoom in a little bit on the face, just a little bit.
So when you're rendering your images, are you thinking about actually drawing out the whole scope of it, or are you just trying to lay down an idea of the image?
Yeah, I think I get like visions in my head of what I want an artwork to look like, but it's very experiential and sensory, so it's kind of hard to put those things into a visual image. Yeah, and so like with this piece, you can't see it a lot, but over the body you see like some slight words.
Yeah.
So there's words kind of going in this big spiral that culminates in the center. And so, yeah.
Through the process of creating the work, is there a point A to B type of thing, or do you let the process happen naturally as you're developing it?
I think it depends on the intention behind what I'm trying to create. Every art has a different intention, and I think the process is very dependent on the intention behind what I want to do. So whenever I go into a project, I have OCD, so I can't just go into something very blindly. I need some sort of direction. So for me, my intention is that direction. It's my, the light at the end of the tunnel. And so my intention with this was just to express myself. And then, like now moving forward in my practice, I want my work to be more interactive. I want people to actually feel it, not just see it. I want them to live in it, and I want it to change people. And so I don't just want it to be something you look at. I don't know if you guys know this, but statistically in museums, people only spend about 4 seconds looking at a piece of artwork. Yeah, so if you didn't know that, I think as an artist it's really important, and I have other works that I'll be sharing like later in my social media and things, but for my thesis last year in college, I created a big sculpture thing, and I think sculptural work is one of those things that really ties in the elements and creates a sensory experience. And so I guess now I'm just trying to figure out how to still use 2D imagery, but still encompassing sensory and, the bodily experience.
I want to add to that, that what they're doing here with the words is a lot like what Alexander was saying about marketing yourself a little bit. Like when you're putting your art in a gallery space, it is about that statistic that they just said, right? You don't want your art piece to be one of those 4-second art pieces. That, just the word, that's why I asked you if you want me to zoom in. Because everybody needed to see the words, right? And does everybody see?
It's a little hard to see because the words are just in a slightly lighter shade of red.
I mean, not to mention, this is a projector screen.
Yeah, and not
a real art piece, but if you guys want to come up closer and see, you can. You're more than welcome to. But that is something important to think about as well. That adds another element to your piece that people then have to look closely and say, oh, let me read this. And you're already past the 4 seconds. So, yeah, amazing job.
What are you talking about, and what is your intent in this piece?
So I guess I'll give a little background as to why I made this piece. As you guys know, like I write poetry, I'm a writer, and I have this series called The Diary of a Biracial Girl, and it's supposed to be like diary entries based off of like my life and my experiences and whatnot. And I'm still like working on it. I submitted a manuscript a couple months ago, so hopefully I get something. But my friend Selena, she's super cool. She runs Palmas de Luna, and they did a exhibit at Unbranded, and it was like We're the Urban, and it was like Miami based and stuff like that. And she was like, I want you to have like one of your poems up. I was like, I'll do you one better, Sally. I'll turn one of my poems into a piece. And I regret doing that because I spent like a week and a half basically like crying over this. I didn't finish this until like 2 a.m. the day before I had to turn it in, and I cried so many tears, and I used the tears in the watercolor piece. So it's called Nymph Dreams. The poem, do I have time to read it? I'll read the poem for you guys. So I wrote this about a year ago. There's this place, it's a state historic park, it's called the Barnacle in Coconut Grove. I love going there. Like I'll go to Le Pan Potent, whatever it's called. I'll get like a quiche thing there. I'll eat that, and then I'll go to the Barnacle and I'll read, and I'll sit there for maybe 2 hours and like absorb all of like the nature. And one day I did that, and I was super inspired by like the squirrels and the nature and the water, and it was like super moving, and I just felt like all of this like inspiration rushed through me. So I spent like maybe an hour there writing this poem. And I'm also really into nymph stuff. This is also me at the bottom, by the way. This is based off of like a nude photography thing that I did. I'm also a figure model, like a nude model. If you guys are ever interested in like doing that, huh?
Not a finger model.
Not a finger model. A figure model. And I really appreciate what Juju said. I don't know where they are. Juju. I really appreciate what you said about payer models because I feel that shit every single day. I'm also going to be modeling for Raw Figs tonight at the Bazaar event. We'll be there. So this is my poem called Nymph Dreams. I often wish to be free from society and to live out my nymph dreams far away from others. To wake naked under a great banyan, curled in my own embrace, a silky grass kisses my skin. My alarm, the birds and their incandescent poetry, and the chatter of trees as wind whispers mysteries through their leaves. The sun warms my body from the coolness of night, where I fall asleep counting the kindred stars. When I rise, I bathe in the ocean and melt into its embrace as waves caress my curves. I hang myself to dry in the mangroves like an egret, freshening from its morning heat. Mango nectar trails down my peaks as I consume its flesh, searching for forbidden secrets. I watch the squirrels race through trees, iguanas sitting stoically as bees play with hibiscus flowers. The sun melts into the great azure and makes hues of crimson to blushing magenta to create the day's final masterpiece. Then comes night, dolloped with twinkling freckles to blanket me in obscurity. My wish is for the cyclical routine to ease back into source rather than live artificially. The busyness of nature is far more romantic than the stagnation of society.
I want to ask more so about your process and the way that you created the idea and why you laid out everything the way you laid it out.
Cool. So from the poem, as you can hear, like as you heard, everything here, like the words here, is the actual poem that I wrote out, and then everything's like a scene from the poem. So like this is the great banyan tree. This is the sun like melting into the water. This is like the mango that's like dripping, like the nectar dripping. This is the bee playing with the hibiscus flower. This is the egret freshening from the morning hunt. And this is me like dolloped in the sky. This was like an actual fabric that I had. And I drew like the sun setting and turning into night on it with the stars. And I'm like blanketing myself in that, in like the obscurity. This was actually super accidental. I finished everything else. And I did this like in the last 30 minutes. I didn't trace it, I didn't do anything. I did it completely freehand in 30 minutes. I finished at like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning and I cried. And I was like, I'm done. And then I fell asleep on my bed with all of my art stuff. But it was very much a labor of love and torture. But I don't know if you guys have seen like lately, I love talking to people. I think people are super interesting, but I also get really tired really fast. I'm a bit of a recluse. Okay. So yeah, like I always have to recover. Like I'll talk to somebody for 5 minutes and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the corner. So I really liked basically how I felt that day was like I was watching all of these people and I felt really inspired but also like disgusted. I was like, there's all this beauty and everybody was like talking and there's so much like chatter and noise and I just wanted to listen to like the nature. And that's what the busyness of nature is far more romantic than the stagnation of society. Usually society is the one that's really busy and we see nature being really stagnant and really still. And I kind of like flip-flopped it. That was inspiration.
Going on to the next art piece.
I'm great. We like the color. I go by they, them. And this is actually just like kind of like the sketch draft of some like of the new processes that I'm going through. I'm kind of stopping from like the traditional like painting on a white canvas. I'm kind of going straight into black canvases and just black mediums in general. This is like a new practice that I'm practicing and just trying to see if it will work out. But I'm excited to see like how it's turning out. A lot of it is tarot based and astrology based. I'm like a spiritual person. This one is more so the 10 of Pentacles, and then this is like a kind of a symbolism of like the sign of Aquarius, because I'm also an Aquarius. So Aquariuses are known as like water bearers, but like the stereotype of Aquariuses are we're so emotionless and we don't feel anything, we're robots. But like in actuality, I feel like it's more we encompass a lot of our emotions. And we just know how to distribute it enough to kind of give it a very, I don't know what's the word, kind of like an all distributing, like an even balance of just giving everyone enough, but still having enough to protect for ourselves. Not ration, you know. But for the 10 of Pentacles, since that is kind of a significance of like security, I kind of wanted to have a symbolism of like Mother Earth or like the energy of just the mother kind of taking the weight of the world while still taking care of like, you know, a little baby. Kind of the takeaway from that was like how we in general can like just have so much energy and space for everyone, but we also all have like an inner child that we have to nurture and grow. So it's like that's kind of like a little bit of a push and play between that.
You talk a little bit about like the art making process.
The art making process,
That's working.
no, actually, this is chalk, and this is just like white gel marker. I've been like just kind of very tired of like the whole structure of like painting. I've been doing it my whole life, and like even when through high school and college, I went to Newark. So I studied like painting, but like I always wanted to do film and music, and like even like structuring like sculptures and performance pieces. So it's like as I'm like pivoting out of that, I just kind of still want to see like, oh, how can I still paint and distribute that like energy and space into like things. But I realized as I was painting, I was like, I don't like any colors anymore, and I'm just like the black and white polarity. Like that's kind of what I'm like digging, and so I've just been kind of like leaning into that more. Oh shit!
I made this piece like pretty recently, like I think within the past month, 2 months. I made it in my painting class at college. It was supposed to, it is a musically abstract, like a musically inspired abstract like painting. So this is like an ode to like my late grandmother. Her name, which is interesting, like she was like the first person to get me into art, but her name is Daisy de la Rosa Espinosa. So that literally is an ode to flowers. Daisy of the rose thorns. So her whole like essence was just so creative, and she was like a very big inspiration to me. And I think looking in retrospect, like she really like inspired art. So I basically painted like purple daisies. There's like a fallen rose, kind of like with its thorns, and kind of like some abstract thorns within the daisy itself. This piece honestly like really opened up a lot of doors for me because I wanted to just infuse as much energy as possible. So I honestly broke out of like my traditional mold of doing like pretty darker paintings. Within this series that I'm like doing now, it reflects a lot of like inner child work, nostalgia, and this is like kind of like an ode to her. So this is the roses and the daisies that represents her name. This is where like mountains, inspired by where she's from, Caracas, Venezuela, and the whole song was inspired by The Starry Night and Vincent van Gogh, because that was one of her favorite artists. And I listened to the song Vincent by Don McLean, and it's just such a beautiful song. It's like starry, starry night, paint your flowers blue and gray, look out on a summer's day. And it's so emotional to me. I love it, and I just wanted to infuse as much energy as possible. So like, there's a tree kind of like there. She was like, they like laid her, or like I guess they spread her ashes around the tree. Like I don't want to give you too much TMI, but it's like so beautiful the way that we like come out of nature and then we go back into nature, and it's like that was such an inspiration to me in so many ways. And like The Starry Night, I experimented a lot with like very gestural kind of like movements, and the process was like just very easy. Like it just flowed out of me, like a new style that I kind of like just emerged. So I'm very excited to see like where else that inspo will take me.
Hello everyone, my name is Ryan. So the process behind this particular piece of inspiration, I actually was born in Miami Gardens, and I mentioned briefly at the opening that I wasn't necessarily given like the best outlook on the environment that I was brought up in. So I always had mentors that took me to field trips such as Fairchild, Pinecrest Gardens, and it really gave me a different outlook that I'm not accustomed in my particular environment. So every year since then, I've been a member at Fairchild Botanical Garden, and I really resonated with what Sophia mentioned about, you know, we're accustomed about being around each other, but you never really get to have that moment being one with nature, and that's something that I really cherish the most. So I just go there with my professional Sony camera, and I get to really understand how plants work, bring my sketchbook. That's what I really enjoy doing. And that's the process and the story behind this particular piece, Banana Tree.
Based off of a photo you took?
Yes, I took the reference photo, and for those
From
that
Pine
was-
Crest?
Fairchild.
Fairchild.
Yes, and this was just a regular pathfinder, just walking by, and I snapped a photo, so she was actually part of it. And with my original body of work, I usually incorporate, and I captured that sense of family members, so I incorporate like my little brothers, my sister in my drawings, just to bring that sense of family and the community. That's what brought us all together. So for those that want to follow me on Instagram, it's going to be Zion Rosier. So the material for this particular piece is Prismacolor pencils.
Wow.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I appreciate it.
Where they were like, okay, so you need to be within these dimensions, so like mask it and then you'll cut
This
it
is one of
after.
my newer collages I've done. It's called Life is More Than Love. And this little piece of text, More Than Love, is like at the center, kind of going outwards as the focal point. But in a lot of my collage works, I incorporate like my own little sketches and cut them out. Some of my prints I use. These are like some like real plants that I found glued on there. Some trash I found glued on there. These markers, pencils, paint, you name it, I put it on there. And a lot of the images come from like magazines or art books that I'm thrifting for really cheap. But I always do like not always, but one of my things is I put like some typography or text within that that is something like from my brain. And it's kind of chaotic, really busy, also reflective of what's going on in my mind most of the time. And just in my art practice, I like externalize my inner mental anxieties. Just get it out of my brain into physical work.
So you're more of a project artist.
And then my Instagram is Margot Studio, if anybody wants to follow me.
Paintings I did in May for my thesis. Basically, I was really interested in doing, I think I mentioned this the first day, I was doing a lot of night scenes. I'm very inspired by fantasy. I want to create these characters, and then like I want the audience to kind of put their own like, maybe if I say it's like put their own story onto it. So like I want to ask like what's going on with this character, their inner psyche. And then I use nature to kind of like explore a lot of to kind of world build basically. And for this painting particularly, I was really interested. I went to Mexico for the first time, and there was a lot of these cactus, and they're really spiky, and I was really interested in that texture. So I wanted to kind of see that juxtaposition between something really soft and like glowy versus something really sharp, and like they're kind of meditating, but are surrounded by this like quite maybe violent plant. I don't know. But yeah, this was definitely. I mean, I'm very proud of this painting. It was very intense, very laborious. It took me like 2 months. But yeah, it took me a while. Yeah, the process. So the plant was actually from the Florida reference, and basically it was it's very technical. Like when I was doing everything, and like I took this photo actually in the daytime, so I had to like use my imagination to make it look like it's night. So that was quite hard to do. And then this character went through a lot of variations. I'm really proud of that necklace and the chest hair.
Yeah.
And then this like I do a lot of like stars, and like I have this like idea of this meteor shower situation in the shoulder.
Wow.
But yeah, also my Instagram is Carlos Sanchez Tata. That's my name. So shout out to the painters here at like Let's Chit Chat.
Mike?
I'm not a technical painter, I'm super abstract, so I'm curious.
I do see when technical painters paint, they do like underlayers. What's your like underlayer color? Like I see there's so many
I
different.
don't do under there.
You
So
don't
I
do
just
under-
started doing this one doesn't. However, I do washes after. So this is actually, it was a breakthrough moment for this painting particularly, that I had this like light situation. So like the cactus here is like slightly brighter than all of this. So I had to do a darker wash, I had to let it dry like 5 days. And then I just did a blue wash, very light. And you lose like detail, so it's like a risk to do that. So I didn't do underpainting, but I did a lot of washes after.
This is oil, right?
Yeah, it's oil.
What medium did you use when you made the wash?
Just Gamsol. I probably should have. Because it's big burly and all that stuff. Yeah.
So I actually just did a wash. It's not this painting, but it's another one where it's not. You call it glazing. Where when you're making it darker, you can use Neil McGill or liquid. I use Neil McGill because it's easier. To
Oh wait, yeah, I love it. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully it doesn't crack, like, you know. Yeah. Okay, thank you guys.
Been 39,000 confirmed deaths so far. Probably more. Undocumented, hidden under the gravel and everything. And this was done with pen and colored pencil.
Like the first day, and I was like, oh, this is so cute. I hope this is good.
Did you sketch it out first, or did you just start free inking the pen?
So I actually started just free inking, which is why you can see some like, it's like rough in certain areas, it's not perfect, which I like. And yeah, the only thing that I like sketched out first were the stripes. I had to figure out how stripes worked, very interesting.
I'm clever here.
Yeah, it's insane, but yeah.
Okay,
All right, take it away.
all right. So this is a artist book that I did with O Miami last September. It was a workshop called Portrait as Poems, and this artist book is a tribute to my grandmother and my family history and my connection to her. This is using a Japanese stab stitch bookbinding technique. I work a lot with lost and found materials and textiles and photos. So this is called Raised Mystics, because I'm a raised mystic. So yeah, I just like asked my grandmother to like give me some of her photos. So I was just like chronicling, like I kind of tied like, actually I took pictures of homes in Miami that kind of remind me of her. And I did a little bit of screen transfer. Like I try a bunch of different techniques in here. It's like a one-stop shop. Yeah, this book, you guys are welcome to pass it around. I'll bring it to the closing if anyone wants to look at it up close. But yeah, it's just like a tribute to her and how much I love her while she's still on this earth. I did a lot of like fragmentation with like images and juxtaposing like time. And a lot of these images, I guess only I would know the significance of, but you know, it's still powerful nonetheless. My socials, I don't really post my work online, let me be real. But you know, I'm getting into that habit. You could find me on Ethereal Luz, that's my personal, but my creative page is called Si Guapa. I could share it with y'all. But yes, this is the work.
My Instagram is Emily Marie Valdez, EMILYMARIEVALDES. Thank you, I apologize.
Any questions for Luz?
Yes.
So like, I know you said a lot of your artwork has to do with like lost and found type beat. So
Yes.
like, where was a lot of this material sourced? Because it's very interesting to me, just like the different textures throughout each page.
Well, like for this was like on the street, like where you carry fruit. Fruit netting.
Yeah.
This was like a little scarf I found at Goodwill that I cut up because I like tassels. Some of it I ripped from old clothing that I had. I'm like you guys don't know, like I have a lot of clothes. I'm kind of a hoarder, so I like try to transform some of the materials. Actually, this was given in a COVID, make your own COVID mask. Material, so I was just like, that's so cool. F a mask, I'm gonna put it in a book. Yeah, I just kind of like, honestly, I pick things off the street. So true. If it looks interesting, I'll pick it up.
Is it because it reminded you of your grandma? Like
a mix of both. I'm a bit of a texture person, so like, as you can see, I just like feeling a lot of different things, so I just, anything that looks interesting, I'll pick it up.
Have you shown it to her and what are her thoughts?
I actually have not showed it to her yet. I know, it's such a crime. It's such a crime.
You gotta record it. Just don't show her that we.
Yeah, it's because we were long distance. She's in New Jersey, so the justice that it would be scanned, which I feel like won't translate. Because when I asked her to get these pictures for me, my mom was like, "You don't know what you asked your grandmother to do." She was crying, looking at all these photos, and I'm like, I promise it's for something beautiful. And so I plan to go to New Jersey for the holidays. And I'll share it. Thank you.
Yeah, I really love how you mix it.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I will. But I'm also breaking away from traditional books as artist books. I'm diving into furniture. So, yes, you'll be on the lookout.
Would you consider making larger booklets?
I would consider making larger booklets. This was only a 3-day class, so we did this in 3 days. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Everybody else in Okay, so this is one of my first paintings for my self-exploration series, and it was pretty, I guess, very intense for me to really showcase it and stuff, because it was kind of funny, like a little backstory. When I was making it, I was trying to apply for the AXA Art Prize. I didn't have an art studio at the time, so I would go to New World every single day and just paint it there. And it's funny because, I don't know if you guys know Adeline, but he had told me one time that people who would come in and they saw my work, like, oh my God, I want to go to school now, because they see. Oh, wow. You know, it's pretty dark. But so this painting is about it's the visualization of my depressive, I guess, state of mind. So this is basically, originally I started with just this figure. The fire actually came in later after doing my animation class, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, wait, I can do stop motion. And I drew on my painting, and that further, I guess, influenced the final product for this one, where basically it's about me being eaten by myself, where I beat up myself mentally and saying all those bad things. And this creature also has the 2 heads and hyena heads because of, I like to use a lot of African mythology. So this is based off of the Kishi monster, which is Angolan mythology, where basically handsome men would lure women, and once they fall in love with them, the back of their heads turn into hyenas and eat them alive. To figure out, I'm literally eating myself alive when I talk about those things. And then I guess you could say the beady red eyes and the fire also intensify how I've been feeling for the past few years, like my situational traumas with housing and family trauma, and then, you know, in and out of school and stuff like that. So, and I guess it's interesting because it's an intimate moment for me because it's in my grandma's bathroom and stuff. And this was, I want to say post-COVID, so a lot of people didn't want to be models, so I had to do everything by myself. So it was a fun process for me because I had to put the timer on my phone and then like I had to run and pose and take a picture. Especially doing this was really hard because I had to get, you know, those hair mannequins that you put on. So I taped one on my shoulders and I had to put a dog mask on myself. That's
dedication.
It was too much dedication. What's the process? Well, it's basically that, and then I just, well, first I sketched it out, then I got the products or the props and stuff, and then I mapped it out here and I just did but I want to say it took me probably like collective time 2 months, but it's been in the works for 2 years. So he was first.
I was just gonna say, for like the referencing, I do that all the time. It's good to also get like a clicker. They have like Bluetooth, like things for either DSLRs or your phone that you can connect to, and you can just use as like a reference if you're trying to set it up like a full stage thing for.
I got have one later on, which was like, I wish I had this.
Yeah.
My question is, when you came up with the idea, like, did you like see the vision in your head? Like, how is your like idea popping out? Like, how did this happen? Yeah.
I guess because it was technically started off from the prompts for our class, because we had to figure out, we had to make I think at least 10 pieces as our final. I was like, what am I gonna do?
So this was just a new world assignment?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is when, we won't talk about him, but for painting 2 and stuff, because he had to get him out. Knows that. But yeah, first I made a prompt. Like, I like to do, I guess, a lot of research before I do anything. So I like to list out, okay, what am I going to do with pieces? So like, I have 2 more already in the works. One is almost done and one is like halfway. And then I think I might cut it down to like 8 pieces. I have like 1 more I'm excited for, and then I might take a pause and work on something else, because I'm kind of tired of seeing myself all the time.
So true.
But it's a lot. I feel like I did more research, and then the execution time doesn't take that much time, unless it's something where, like, this scale is pretty hard for me because I haven't done something life size before when it came to me. With other people, it's just like, okay, you know, you can see the differences, but then when you're staring at your own face, it's really frustrating. Like the last one I'm doing right now, I think I reworked my face at least 4 times, and I still don't like it. So.
I really love the expression that you added. It's just like, it's uncanny. Like, you feel that state of like what it is that you were trying to explore. So.
It's like, I feel like, how can this, you know, position look good? What medium did you use? Oh, this oil paint.
Absolutely gorgeous. You can dance, but when I have a purpose for it, like for this one, it was to make the cover of my single that I released on platforms. And this was all the materials that I found in my childhood room in Canada. I went and I was kind of like terminating ideas, beliefs, and just putting them like into a work of art so they can carry a life for themselves, can go in their own way instead of following me. So I was giving it life and then giving it away. So this is like a collage thing, a lot of like 3D essence to it. These are Play-Doh little figures with like pine cone stubs and chains I have, like bracelets, random pins, broken rubber things. And the concept is a lot of like just untethering myself from my past and not wanting really an identity of I'm Colombian, I'm from here, I'm this person. I sort of just carry myself as a soul and see everyone else as a soul, not worrying about what they are or anything or what I am. Just makes me more peaceful towards all living beings. And yeah, that's it. And in light of what they talked about yesterday with AI, I was curious about how I can transform this into AI. So with a program called DALL-E 2, now it's DALL-E 3, I was able to just grab square segments and input my prompts of like the style, the color, the year, the texture, and I just went one by one, like adjusting and refining how I imagined it more to be. But with my limited abilities and stuff, I was able to use AI to create something that's outside of my practice.
I just want to say, super cool, and I really love how you're like incorporating mouths and eyes. Like, I feel like that's sort of like seeing yourself in it, and I don't know. That's how it felt to me, and like it really resonates. Like, I see you in it. It's really cool.
Thank you. Sit back to your
My question is like, what is your single about, and how did that help create that art piece?
My single is called Reflejo Infinito, which means infinite reflection. And what it's about, it's a bit, you could hear it, but I could say like my version of it is, it's kind of like a collection of all my ideas, of all my spiritual ideas, like let's just say this is the first song I wrote, and I was like, how can I put all my current ideas and put them out right now without worrying about if it's good enough, if like it's refined enough, if I'm good enough, anything, just like all this, like that. You can hear the song and see it for yourself. I don't really like talking about, because I don't know what it is about it either.
I really love how you took things from your childhood role. It actually made me think of those old.
Switch the other one, please.
Yeah. It actually made me think of those old I Spy books when you open them and there's a bunch of like collages in that.
I see.
We spoke about AI yesterday. We spoke about AI yesterday, and some of us were for it, some of us were not for it, some of us were in the middle. What made you give AI a try with this seemingly like piece of art that also has like a personal touch to you as well?
Oh, my resources. I was thinking like, I wanted to release a song and like have the whole complete cover. I even made a music video with AI, like each frame. So then I was just thinking of my resources. Like I didn't want to outsource and like seek out help so much. I just wanted to get it over with myself. So I was like, how can I use technology to my advantage to create this in this instant rather than wait for the future?
So these are part of a larger body of work that I had the opportunity to show at a group show with Project Art and then with Echo's amazing curation. So this is the first time I'm seeing it in this kind of way with the mirrors behind it, which I really love. It's these pieces are made out of paper towels that I collected from working with my students, and like we were working on these watercolor projects, and there was so much going on that in my personal life at the time with grief, both on a personal and collective level, and the collective is the personal in a lot of ways, and working with kids throughout that brought so much joy in the sorrow and the everything that was going on. So I really wanted to use that opportunity of the showcase we were having to have my students reflect themselves, see themselves in the work. So that's why I decided to, and also just the way that there's so much magic and beauty in like the mundane and the ephemeral and the things that and grief really brings that out, like the little things that, you really hold on to when someone's gone. So yeah, these were watercolor liquids we used in this project, and we kept on having to soak everything out because we're in a library, obviously, and it was a mess. And using these paper towels to do that, and I was like, I can't throw these away. So I had stacks and stacks of paper towels, and I then decided, I was thinking about quilting them, but they're so delicate, that was like impossible. So I love to work with glass, which can be very pricey, and so I decided to test out epoxy resin these and dipped them in epoxy, squeezed it out, and then sculpted them. And was playing with string and having these little blobs of epoxy with the string. And for the original showcase, I had like some flashlights available for kids to like refract the light. And there were also some scents embedded into some of them. All the scents are
Wow.
trying to create work that's playful and brings that those playful elements to everybody. I feel like I'm missing something, but yeah. It's called Transient Echoes.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So, like, you said you really like the effect of what the mirrors are giving. Is it usually attached to a wall, or is it standing up on its own? Like, do you put it on?
I could show you some photos. The original, I curated it with, I had like the corner of a couple walls in Swamp Space, this gallery, and I used the 2 walls, a little bit of the floor, and like a bit of the ceiling, and then I had 2 larger pieces that were hanging from the beams. So yeah, the whole space is much like a, yeah.
You talked about how with these pieces, you allow the kids to have some sort of light with them to like allow sensories to come in with it. Is sensory something that you normally do with your artwork, and if so, why?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a person, like I'm sure most of us here, has dealt with anxiety and depression my whole life, and I'm a very tactile person and visual tactile learner, and creating and always, going to museums or whatever kind of art spaces as a kid and wanting to just touch everything and having these rules set around that. And so I really try in my work to like allow that playfulness and that curiosity to not have like, boundaries, and just create spaces that are for tactile experiences and sensory experiences of all kinds.
Given that you're using epoxy and you have like a certain amount of time before you can stop messing with it,
Yeah, it's like heating up.
what made you like stop twisting its forms and you being like, I'm okay with where it's at?
That was a challenge, and I would even go back while they were like partially curing and like re-ship them, because there was also like the wind would move them, and I had to like, and also figuring out, experimenting. A few of them didn't make it because I didn't have like the right material to let them dry on or cure on, because silicone is expensive and I only like a few random sheets of it. So I found out my cat's like litter bags don't like whatever material they're made out of, they were good enough to peel the resin off of once it cured. Trash bags, no, but then I'll share the brands of my cat's litter bags. That worked really well. And cardboard was not good, obviously. It absorbed.
Can I use my flash on them?
Yeah. Sadly, it's more like shadows with the actual paper towel pieces, but and because it's mirror, probably won't be good.
That's so good.
Wow.